Cheeky Run Club recognises that every day we live, work and run on Aboriginal land.
This episode of Cheeky Run Club is brought to you by Pillar Performance and their new creatine supplement.
Welcome to Cheeky Run Club, the social running podcast and community for your everyday amateur runner. Hello, Phoebe.
Hello, Anna.
And hello, listeners.
Today, we are going to be diving into a big controversy in the running world, which is the drama surrounding the latest record attempt to run across Australia, which I wouldn't have said I thought this was interesting until I learned about what was going on behind the scenes. And now I think it is very
juicy.
interesting. We're also going to give some running recs and answer a couple of listener questions about warm-ups and cool-downs and also our next running goals. But first of all, as always, we'll kick it off with our notable runs of the week. Anna, tell me about your worst run this week.
My worst run this week. Well, you'll be happy to know it wasn't a run with you.
Okay. I'm always worried. Oh, no.
Oh, my God.
Is it going to be a run with me?
My worst run this week wasn't really a run. I went on a walk with young Ted. Mm-hmm. Great bloke. Well, he normally is a great bloke. And then at the dog park, he was being an absolute feral. He's
not a great bloke.
Not a great bloke. He's almost 11 months old and
Okay.
still got his
Puppy.
Oh, I was going to say his
madness.
male parts. I was trying to think of a nice way to
hasn't
say
been
he has
snipped.
his balls.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I think
Is that
maybe-
normal? Is that a normal age to
Well,
not-
yeah. So my vet friend Abby, shout out to Abby,
Yeah.
she recommended waiting until 12 months just because he's a bit of a bigger dog, so he's physically developed, blah blah blah, all this stuff. Maybe it's mentally, I don't know. But he's like become quite boisterous. I think because he gets so excited about seeing a dog, so he'll run up to them. But no matter if it's a bigger dog or a smaller dog, and the smaller dogs. Then not into it. They like get scared and then they start barking and then he kind of stops. And then the owners look at me, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
Anyway, so he embarrassed me a couple of times and then I put him on the lead to walk off. And then he's like a bouncy ball, then starts like bouncing up and down with the lead, trying to bite that. And just like barking, kind of
Crazy.
biting, like playing biting me. And I was like, stop it.
Oh, he has
Anyway.
been known to chew through leads.
He has been known to chew through leads. Yes. Well, to those.
Yeah.
So we were at our friend's birthday dinner and then we looked down and we went to a dog-friendly pub and Ted was there and then another dog, Ralph, was there, little cavoodle. Little Ralph. And all of a sudden Ralph wasn't under the table anymore. And then Izzy, Ralph's mum, looked over and Ralph was on the other side of the pub and was like, oh my God, Ralph, what are you doing over there? Anyway, then he came back over and it was the funniest look because he had about 10 centimetres of his lead attached to him. And Ted had obviously been under the table just chewing through it.
Strong teeth.
And then said to Ralph, this is your time. Go
Escape. Go young man.
escape.
Ted is quite a confident dog. I see him at cafes, like he'll really walk straight up to the other dog.
Yeah, and be
Hey.
like, hey,
Yeah.
what's up? Did you get a puppuccino? Anyway, that's my worst running related activity. What is yours?
Mine is also a running related activity. I was on my commute home. I was riding my bike home. And I've been actually really lazily going a slightly different way so I don't need to go up a hill. Just sometimes
Up
like
the hill
end
near
of the
my
day,
house?
yeah, and it's kind of a nicer ride. It's way quieter and
It's quite a detour.
it's quite a detour, but also just like a little bit of a nicer,
Yeah,
peaceful
yeah.
route usually.
Yes.
However, I was riding up the road next to Barclay Gardens, which for those not familiar with it, it's just kind of a normal suburban street. There's a school there, but there's no bike path on it. It's like a shared road. And I only have to ride on that road for literally 20 meters before I jump onto the park, basically,
Yeah,
like right
yeah.
on across. And so I was doing that, riding in the middle of the road. I knew there was a car behind me, but I was just literally getting across. And the car started revving up at me, like right behind me. And as I was going across and then trying to like go around me, and I stopped and looked at the
Did
car.
you stop?
Yeah, because I was like, sorry, what is going on here?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
this is just afternoon in the park. Like, why are you revving at me? And it was this guy. And he just starts yelling at me, being like, what do you think you're doing riding on the road? Like, get off the road, like swearing. And I was just, excuse me.
What the hell?
You're being so rude right now. And I, for whatever reason, was just not in the mood to put up with it. So
Yeah,
I was just going
back
right
at
back at him, just being like, you cannot talk to people like that. I don't care if you think I'm in the wrong, which I'm not. It's a shared road, but you just can't talk to people like that. And then he just...
I'm sure he would have responded really well. I'm sorry, but even if I'm in the wrong, you can't talk to people like that.
I literally was like, this is just not a nice way to talk to people. You can't raise your voice. You can't swear. You have to talk like a normal adult. And he hated it. And he just went, and like beeped his horn so loudly and then just roared off past me. And just left me standing in the middle of the road. And I was like, what just happened? And the guy in the car behind was looking at me. What just happened? Because he must have seen me go up to the window and be like, mate,
what are you doing? Yeah.
Anyway, it was just awful. And the rest of the bike ride home, even though I'd been quite tough to this guy, I was pretty shaken.
It does frazzle you.
Oh my God, that was so intense. Why were you so angry? I'm just a happy cyclist on a road getting over to a footpath.
Just a happy gal trying
what
to
did
get
I
home.
do to annoy you so much? Probably retaliating. I don't think he liked it.
Yeah.
Anyway, it wasn't very nice.
No, but also good on you for standing up for yourself.
Yeah. Anyway, give me your best run of the week.
My best run was this morning with
so
you and Jen.
nice.
It was so nice. It was such a lovely morning. We went for a jog up through Richmond along the river. Then we had coffee after. No one was in a rush.
It was like an idyllic conditions. Beautifully calm morning, perfect sunrise. One of those ones where you start in the dark and then just watch the whole sky
thing.
change.
Yeah.
And I agree. It was just felt like we weren't in a rush.
No, it kind of felt how weekend runs feel. Obviously, you'll leave.
Yeah.
At some point. You don't stay at the coffee shop all day. But yeah, it was nice.
I love how that run is like every run we do ever. As in, that is the same route we almost always do. You and Jen and I run together multiple times a week. And yet it can still just be so nice.
Lovely. Yeah. What was your best run?
My best run, okay, I had 2 great runs on the weekend. I did my long run with Izzy Hume, who we had on the podcast a little while ago. She is a speedy gal. I was so cooked after that run. Oh my gosh, yeah. I was doing like 30 seconds a kilometre faster than I normally do.
Yeah.
So it was hard work, but it was really, really fun. But I would say that comes a close second best to my best run of the week was Saturday. I ran with my brother Joe for an hour. We ran from this cafe, which was called Standing Room.
Yes.
In Fitzroy North.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
It was the nicest cafe.
Yeah.
But so we ran from there. We ran for an hour along the river. We ran into Bronte, our friend who's been on the pod before, ran with Bronte for a little bit. And it was just perfect sunny morning. We started at 9 a.m. We started really late. And then afterwards sat in the sun at this cafe for a little while.
Oh,
and it was just
that is heaven, especially after your busy week last week.
That's exactly. It was come straight off. I mean, we recorded the night before, the Friday night, and I was so exhausted. Rather than doing my long run the next day, I was like, I'm just going to meet Joe, casual hour, do it really easy. And it was exactly what I needed. It was really nice.
Oh, so good.
Yeah. It was lovely.
Gosh, lucky Joe.
Yeah, I'm lucky me. Let's get into our main topic for the week, which we're actually, I don't think we've said, we're reinvigorating an old segment we used to do called The Rundown.
Which we love.
Which is basically where we unpack what's been happening in the running world of late. And this week, as I said at the start, there has been some controversy in the running world.
There has been. So I feel like a lot of people might be aware, although some people might not be, but in the coming weeks, you will definitely be made aware of a British endurance athlete and model, supposedly, William Goodge, 31. Allegedly. He's now more than halfway across the country. He is trying to break the record for the fastest person ever to run across Australia, which a lot of you will probably remember Ned Brockman tried to do that a few years ago and sadly didn't make it. So Will is
trying to get that record.
Trying to get it. So he's actually not just trying to get it, he's trying to get it in 35 days.
Which is the record's 40 days, I'm pretty sure.
39 days 39, and 8 hours. Yeah, so he's not only just trying to break, he's kind of trying to smash it.
And he's on track.
Yeah, he's on the home stretch.
Yeah. But so a little bit of background about William Goodge. So he started running in 2018 when his mother passed away, and it was sort of a way to help his mental health. But since then, he's really kind of found his niche in these insane ultra events. So for example, in 2023, he ran across the US. So he ran from Los Angeles to New York in 55 days, which was the fastest coast-to-coast run in the US. He also is what I'd put in the category of a modern runner. So here's a quote that I found about him in an article. He combines high fashion with athleticism, often seen in designer gear and maintaining a polished appearance, challenging traditional perceptions of ultra runners.
Gosh, he sounds like us.
He sounds a little bit like us. Oh my God.
Modern
we do
runners.
combine high fashion with athleticism. No, but I think this is all part of his story, because I do think nouveau runner thing that he's bringing, which is also, so whenever he clocks off for the day, he has a beer and a cigarette, for example. So he's really challenging conventions of what the traditional runner would see as this is what peak performance looks like.
Yeah.
And so basically I don't know about you, I was loosely aware of this, that someone was trying to do it. I honestly hadn't been following it. I didn't really care until I was notified by my brother that some people in the running community are not happy about this attempt, and not only that, are very, very suspicious.
Yeah, very. So I do want to say, when he started running, he did it as you said, an escape to sort of cope with his mum's death. He got a taste of it when he ran marathons, and he ended up raising, I think, over £20,000 to raise money for cancer research. And he is raising money at the moment. So I think no matter what you think, at the end of the day, he is raising money for a good cause.
Yeah. So basically what I was first made aware of, basically my brother said, have a look at the comments on Strava because people are not happy. And so I went and had a look, and it is pretty wild. There's, I would say, a team of people. I don't know who they are or where they've come from, but every single run he does, they extract the data and analyze it for anomalies because they heavily suspect that he's cheating. So the main things that they're suspicious about is his heart rate data, because they're basically saying it is way too low. It often sit at 100 beats per minute.
Well, he's run walking.
He's run walking.
Yeah. Which they're saying is insanely too low. That and his cadence. They're saying his cadence is also too high. So we'll get into it, but there are a few things saying that because he's going so slowly, because it's such a long event, his cadence should be lower than it is.
Yeah.
It's too high. So it should be about 20.
But isn't he just taking tiny steps?
Well, that's what people are arguing as well.
Yeah.
So there's now been an article posted about it in the Daily Mail, of all places, where it delved into the accusations, and that's where we learned it's not actually the first time he's been accused. So this
is my favorite part of the story.
Yeah. So one of the main accusers is a guy from southwest London, William Cockrell, who's a sports writer. And he is so obsessed with the idea that he's cheating, not just now, has in the past, when he was doing the US run that you mentioned earlier, that he actually flew over there to try and catch him in the act.
Yeah, which I just think that is so funny. That level of intensity around.
Is bizarre. Alas, when William Cockrell went over to found William Goodge, he found he was just jogging along exactly as he said he was.
He wasn't able to catch him. Yeah.
Yeah.
But he still very much believes that he was cheating.
Yes. Yeah. But William Cockrell denies that he's jealous. He just says that there are so many amazing ultra runners in the world that aren't getting the attention that this guy is, and he thinks it's wrong that William Goodge is the one getting the attention.
Yeah, it's like a moral plight.
Yeah.
I read, which I've never heard this term before, but I was reading about one of the accusations of watch muling. Which is for other listeners who aren't familiar with it, it's basically like when you share your watch.
Yeah.
You share your watch between people. So they're kind of saying maybe he runs with his watch a bit, then gives it to someone else while he sits in the car or whatever.
Yeah. So we both found ourselves in a corner of the internet we never thought we would be.
I never wished to be
again. It's a website called Let's Run, which is a running forum. I'm never on chat forums like Reddit.
Yeah.
Or I know that my dad, he probably will hate me saying this, he goes into a forum about the Melbourne Demons. And it's like similar. They just chat about trades, injuries, how the team's going, blah, blah, blah. And it's a similar thing. So you make these anonymous accounts and you just say whatever you want.
So had you ever been on Let's Run before? Had you heard of it?
I have heard of it through one of our girlfriends, and I went on it last year around some sort of doping scandal, but I couldn't really quite configure. I didn't really super sleuth today.
So I'd heard about Let's Run. It's always whenever there's a controversy in the running world, it always seems there's rumors and discussions on Let's Run. And I always just thought, you know what, I have no interest
This is not for me.
Being part of those discussions.
Yeah.
Alas, today I found myself scrolling through pages and pages of comments around William Goodge, and it's actually incredible the amount of posts that are going into. So the main
so many people talking about it. Mind you, I just want to. He's 2,000 kilometers in. He's still got 1,800 kilometers to go. Let's say that like he is doing it. Can you imagine how hard it would be not just to do what you're doing at the moment physically and mentally, but then also to think that people are like not believing you
I
and
wonder
like
if he
copying all of this.
Like, because I don't actually I think this is a small group of people ultimately.
I reckon he does. He got Cockerel removed from his Strava.
Wow.
Yeah.
So there is someone on Let's Run with the name Goodge Will Hunting, which really made me chuckle. And
you like that one, did you?
Yeah, it's very clever. It's very
actually is quite clever.
And he has assembled what he calls a team of people who are analysing each of his runs. And this is actually where I got to the heart. I started to understand a little bit more about, because I was reading the stuff about the heart rate and I was like, oh, whatever, he's half walking. Of course his heart rate's 100.
Of course it's low.
And like you found that thing comparing his heart rate to Ned Brockman's and being like, it's really similar.
Yeah.
Which I think was on Let's Run as well.
Yeah.
But the crux of their frustration is supposedly it's just in these very, very specific events, his heart rate will change from being around 140 to closer to 105. And it's actually when he speeds up, as this person said, often to super world-class levels, his heart rate collapses down. So the example they give is he competed in an actual race. There are multiple 60-mile stretches. Well, one of the 60-mile stretches he ran took him 27 hours to do, and his pulse was at 140. And then the next 60 miles he did in 15 hours, so nearly half the time. Overtook almost the entire field, although he only ever overtook at aid stations. When no one could see him, he wasn't overtaking anyone. Then he'd like run past everyone at the aid station, and his heart rate came down to 120. So that I'm like, okay, maybe that does sound kind of weird. They're basically saying it's when he's unobserved, he speeds up and his heart rate goes down. However, I then went back to his Strava because I was like, okay,
let's have a look at this.
Let's have a look.
Yeah.
And it just looks like it was always sitting around 100. So I didn't really get it. I couldn't really see an example of when it had gone up to, it was never at 140. It was always at 100.
I did notice from his Strava that ever so slightly for, if you look at the first 20-ish Ks of his run, there is a slight trajectory is slightly on the up in the sense that there are more kilometers that he runs at about 120, 125 beats per minute. Between 15 and 20 Ks than 0 and 5. And then after the 22-ish Ks, then it gets down to
back to like
100, like quite often sometimes below 100. And then I was thinking, oh, maybe it's like a change of pace. Maybe he slows right down. But he doesn't. It's the same pace. There's the same pace. Or maybe he slows down for a bit, but then we'll start at a faster pace again. And when I say faster pace, obviously it's not a super fast pace because he's running 110 kilometers a day. But it never quite reaches what it did at the beginning.
Well, the other theory in terms of the people who are defending him is people are saying there is some overtraining effect where when you get to a certain point of exhaustion, like your heart rate actually does drop. And there's evidence and science behind that. I don't understand what it is, but they're basically saying like he's overreaching and so his heart rate is almost actually a sign of, which I don't know if this is the same, but I know with my Oura ring, they say if your resting heart rate is too low, it can be a sign that you're actually not coping with the amount of like load. So there's obviously some kind of like,
I would assume though, and there is absolutely no science behind this, there might be, I just don't know if there is, but I would assume that might be the case, that maybe when you're kind of not coping and almost in a bit of shutdown mode, your heart rate does drop. But I would think that kind of means you can only do that for a certain amount of time before your body completely like shuts down and collapses, which never
he seems to charge on.
So it is interesting to think that each day that could happen. But then there's no, I mean, who knows, there might be long-term effects and he's probably going to be absolutely cooked when he finishes. But I just mean he can still then get up and do the same thing the next day. Whereas you'd think if your body is in that zone, you wouldn't be able to get up the next day.
His whole thing is that he's a freak because he can do that. I think what I almost find more interesting than the is he cheating or isn't he cheating, it feels like sometimes when these big dramas explode in the running world, it's a real clash between the old and the new in terms of running philosophies and attitudes on running.
100%.
I found this quote, or there was this situation early on in the run where maybe 2 or 3 days into the run across Australia, William finished, stopped, said he was done, had a couple of beers, and then was like, oh, you know what, I've got a couple more kilometers in me, and kept running.
Keep going, yeah.
And people were really annoyed at that because, well, this is one of the quotes. He doesn't understand that rubbish time and distance at the end of the day is poor strategy. Eats into recovery time, which is now under 9 hours. Basically being like, you've got less time to sleep. Like, they're really annoyed because he's not respecting the distance.
Yeah.
And then this was my favorite.
I love this quote.
It's actually so funny. It is not sport as we know it. Our sport is noble, historic, and takes tremendous sacrifice, skill, and discipline. And now we have him selling beer at the end of the run, not once, but twice, on top of all the other products he's shilling, and putting up his run and then deciding to add to it after a beer and then just leaving it withdrawn. I actually don't know what that sentence means. All so darn crass.
Here. I think Dave, my husband, he actually made this point that I remember when Ned Brockman first started his journey, there were so many, in quotation marks, old runners. And when we say old runners, we don't mean literally their age being old, but people that feel like that they have been running way before running became cool and popular. And for some reason they feel like they have this ownership of running and it's their prized possession. And therefore that anyone new in, it's almost like they need to prove that they're good. Anyone that's sort of deemed to be a bit of a threat is deemed trash until proven otherwise. Dave even was saying, which I remember when Ned Brockman first started his journey across Australia, he was saying, he reminded me how so many of the people that we mix with and everything were so quick to shut him down, not even give him a chance because they were like, oh, hold up, who is this guy? Blah, blah, blah. I don't know him. He hasn't come through the ranks, all this stuff. And kind of are just not accepting or whatever. Which I remember when he first said that, I was a bit defensive and being like, oh, no, I don't think so. But I don't know, when you kind of take a step back and think about it, and that is exactly what is happening here. I really hope that he is running. But it just goes to show, I feel like these old runners, they have this bee in their bonnet about not wanting anything to change ever. But I just don't understand, because generally speaking, the running boom is just beneficial for everyone. It's also beneficial for these old runners because they have more events.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's really problematic. I actually think, Ned's such an interesting example because whilst I definitely have issues with part of the Ned Brockman thesis, there's a lot of toxic elements to what he does, but I have never cared at all about the fact that he was trying to break that record. As in, I didn't care. I was just cool, good on him.
Yeah, it's cool.
Sick. He's doing what he wants to do. I just like whatever. Awesome. It's just like that is not an issue. And I think there's something about different attitudes or philosophies clashing that I just think people take really personally, and it ends up being something that I think it's obviously not good for the sport, but also, I don't know, it's almost like people want it to stay the same and they just don't want it to change. And that's just no way to live your life.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to know if this happens as much in other countries. I don't know. I know Australia is renowned for the tall poppy syndrome and that kind of thing, but I just feel like anyone that's sort of trying to do something a bit different a lot of the time is kind of shunned a little.
I definitely think that's big, but like putting themselves out there, doing something different.
Exactly.
And I agree with you exactly. I really hope that he's not cheating. Actually, I don't even care that much. I mean, obviously I hope he's not cheating because that's the wrong thing to do. But I'm not particularly invested in it either way. But when I see the obsession and the extent to which that feels unhealthy.
It feels so unhealthy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if anyone, so you don't have to jump onto the Let's Run thread.
Oh, don't
we've
do
done the
it.
dirty work
Yeah.
for you. But these people have downloaded all of these graphs and compared each kilometer split with all these other things.
crazy.
The processing of that data and reading it would take so long.
Hours and hours and hours every day.
Surely, go and, I don't know, I just say, go and get on the foam roller or
Yeah.
something. Like, surely you have something better to do.
Surely got something better to do. But yeah, I don't know. I noticed that they'd gone really quiet over the last week or so. There haven't been many additional. There's still those few main people, but in general, it feels like people
A little
are kind
bit,
of like,
yeah.
okay. I don't
Yeah, I did wonder for William Goodge. I wonder what your perspective is. Obviously, he's sort of gone a bit. I know that I said that he posted that Instagram story, but he's not trying to prove himself in the sense that he's doing Instagram lives for the whole run or whatever. Do you think that he would have less scrutiny if he kind of rebounded and was like, okay, I'll be completely open. Literally, I am filming this whole thing.
Yeah.
Or do you just think it's better just to stay silent?
I mean, I just feel like he's probably like so deep into the run and like exhausted that, I don't know, like he's doing his Strava updates. It's all recorded. I don't know what you need to qualify for an official world record. In my mind, if he's doing everything he needs to do to officially qualify for that, then I don't see why the average puncher on the street should require more information.
Yeah.
However, I don't know, maybe for the world record, you actually do need to, there is more of a burden of proof. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. So what do you think? Is he running?
I think he's running.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I think he's running. So he's got a weird heart rate.
Case closed.
Yeah. What do you think?
I think he's running as well. I just think it's probably people trying to find a negative in something. And I really, as we said, I really hope he's running. Yeah. I think what's telling is that he's coming into Adelaide. He's just been across the Nullarbor. He's coming into Adelaide, and then there's going to be a lot more people around.
Well, they already I actually saw there were multiple people over the last few days on his Strava and Instagram who were like, so fun running with you today. That was amazing. Like,
which is true, but again, I feel like
could be
the stretches of road that they're on are so long and straight. You would be so, just playing devil's advocate,
see someone
it would
coming.
be so easy to see someone coming.
Wow.
Whereas like now I feel like from Adelaide to
you don't believe it.
No, I do, but I feel like from Adelaide to Sydney, he's not gonna be able to not be running.
Oh, I'm really excited.
I think that if he's not, I feel like we're gonna find out before he gets to Sydney.
Out. I'll tell you what, it would be so crazy if it's found out that he is cheating, if someone somehow captures it. But I'm excited. Let's do a poll and let's suss out from our listeners, do we think he's telling the truth or not?
I reckon by the time this episode comes out, we'll know.
We'll know that he's cheating.
So, Pillar Performance are very kindly sponsoring this week's episode, and they have given us a discount for 15% off your first order. Please use the code CHEEKY at checkout. So, Phoebe, you were telling me off air about your chin-up progress. How do you think the new creatine monohydrate product is helping you to hopefully one day get your chin up over the bar?
Oh, it's the dream. The day that happens without being heavily assisted will be so exciting. Yeah, so I did think it was time to give another chin up update.
Yeah.
I know everyone's very invested in this journey of mine. I would say actually across the gym, I've started noticing either I haven't changed my weights for some exercises, but they're coming a lot easier, or I am starting to add a little bit more weight here or there, which is very exciting.
Yeah.
And I genuinely think I saw no progress for the first 3 months in the gym. And I have noticed since I've been taking creatine regularly, and maybe it's just that I've been doing gym for long enough, but I feel like it's making a difference with my strength, which is obviously the main thing that creatine's meant to help. So with the chin up, I've started a new exercise for it. This can be a little rec for anyone who wants to give it a go. What you do is you jump up so you're holding yourself above, and then you just try and lower yourself down as slowly as possible.
Oh, yeah.
So I still do it assisted, but with much less assistance than when I'm pulling myself up.
Yeah.
And that's exactly the same muscle groups that you want to be activating to pull yourself up.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And with no assistance.
Yeah. And
Nice.
so I'm now can hold myself up for 3 seconds.
Yeah.
before I slowly start lowering. And on Tuesday, I tried to do just one chin up.
Yeah.
And I reduced the weight by another 7 kilos from what was helping me. So I took it down to 30 kilos, I think it was. And I got up.
Hey.
Yeah.
Watch out.
It's progress.
Okay, so it's going to happen sooner than I thought.
Well, who knows?
Thank you once again, Pillar Performance, for making this episode of Cheeky possible.
And for helping me with my chin-up goals. We have a couple of quick recs this week. Tell us what your rec is.
Mine is so it's getting cold in Melbourne, or just in the Southern Hemisphere in general. And I have world's worst circulation, not exaggerating. So my recommendation is getting yourself a pair of the Lululemon Women's Fast and Free fleece running gloves. They are so helpful, and I just feel like they make those cold mornings or afternoons that much more manageable. And you don't have to stretch your long sleeve tops by pulling them over your hands.
That's what I do. I need to get it. I need to get into running gloves. I've really never embraced
I
the
really
lifestyle.
like them.
I remember you have been known to rock short sleeve and running gloves.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that just because your hands get so cold?
Yeah, I feel like my circulation is just so bad, and I have this thing when my hands get really cold. It doesn't matter how warm the rest of my body is, especially if you're doing a session or something hard. I just feel like I can't run properly. Like my arms just feel so heavy and like numb.
That's not a nice feeling.
No. So yes, love the gloves. What are you recommending?
Well, I'm going to do a recommendation on behalf of actually a few people. So I asked a question on our Strava group this week about running in the dark tips. And there were a few recommendations for the brand Knog. Nog.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you used it before?
I have.
Is it a cycling brand as well?
Yes. Yeah. They do lights.
They do lights. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I gave it away.
That's the recommendation. Well, sorry, it is. So I have never run with a running headlamp, but I did one after work run this week, and I was like, this is insanity. I can't be doing this.
Yeah.
Just felt like I was going to trip over something, if nothing else. And a few people specifically called out their Nog either chest strap, headlight, you can get little ones that you put on your wrist that don't show the way for you, but just show people that you're there. For example, I was running on a path with heaps of cyclists.
Yeah.
So obviously you want to be able to be seen, but I'm going to try and check them out. They just look very nice and lightweight.
They're so lightweight. I've actually been known to, when we used to run laps around Albert Park Lake as a session and it would be dark, I have the Nog. It's Nog, Knog.
Yeah.
I have their bike lights, but they just clip on and clip off. So I used to tuck them into my sports bra to run when I ran.
Oh, so people could see from behind.
Yeah, because I just always get scared of cars coming up behind me and not seeing me.
Yeah. Okay, I have another rec while we're onto it.
Yeah.
We have put it on our Instagram before, but when you just said sports bra, I was like, I actually can't not say this. The L&DR Locked and Loaded sports bra is the best running sports bra I've ever had. I use it now. I save it for
all the time.
I just save it either my long run or my biggest session. I have never once had chafe in it, and as long-time listeners will know, I chronically struggle with chafe. It has cup sizes and also heaps of adjustable straps, so you can actually make it fit. I think you can make it fit really well, and it's the most supportive sports bra I've ever worn. And I couldn't be more impressed with it.
Heaven. All right. So our last little bit for this week, we are answering a few listener questions. So thank you everyone for writing in. We see all of them and we very much appreciate it.
And maybe we've got a few that we really wanted to talk about that we're not going to have time to. So maybe over the next few weeks, we'll do a few more.
Yeah. So listener Alyssa has asked us to please give us some tips on warm-up routines and drills. So Phoebes, what is the purpose of warming up and some drills?
So, I mean, there's a few different purposes that they do, but the main thing that you can think of the purpose of your warm-up as literally just getting you ready for whatever physical activity that you're going to do. So you do them in running, you mostly do them for a session. So when you're going to do some harder, faster activity, and it primes your body, it gets it ready to go, not just to exert itself, but also to activate the right muscles to improve your technique and ultimately prevent injury and improve performance.
Yeah.
One of the reasons I wanted to answer this question is because someone I won't name, but one of my friends who's recently got into running.
Sounds Suspicious.
Well,
Someone I won't name.
as in she hasn't consented to me telling this story.
One of my friends.
One of my friends who won't be named, who she's recently got into running, and I asked her recently, why do you never do warm-ups and cool-downs? Like, I see your sessions on Strava.
As in, she just goes straight into the hard
She
bit.
literally just starts a session, and she was saying, I don't want to like tire myself out too much before I start running, and then I also don't want to, once I finish my session, I actually just need to stop for a bit.
Yeah.
And as I came to understand, she thought, she didn't realize you're allowed to stop between your warm up and the session, and then the session and the cool down. So obviously when we do sessions, we will warm up, pause our watches, stop for 5 minutes, whatever, to have a chat, fully recover, and then do the session, stop, lie down on the ground, do whatever you need to do, and then when you have caught your breath back, you can do your cool down. So what does a good warm-up look like to you?
A good warm-up would be, I kind of like to do 15 minutes or so, really slow jogging, and then stop. And then I like to do a few strides, which is we've spoken about before, but they're pretty much just a 80-ish, 60 to 80 meter stride through where you're actually getting up to speed faster than you would in almost like a bit of a sprint, but obviously you're not going super fast because you've literally like just warmed up and you're not feeling great. But I feel like you're trying to focus on form and try and focus on how you feel rather than pushing yourself completely, but it's just kind of getting into the rhythm of running, and I feel like it loosens you up even more. And I guess similar to drills, I feel like because you're focusing on your form, it refines your running form. You're running faster than a warm-up, and I feel like it's a good introduction to recruiting those muscles that you want to be recruiting mid-session.
Do you ever do drills?
I do high knees because I feel like I have lazy, well, I've been told I have lazy glutes, so I feel
Does that turn them on?
Well, a little bit, because you're sort of, especially if you're doing high knees but skipping, then you like have to, like your glute has to turn on in order to like support
to do that.
Standing on one leg.
Yeah. You see pros doing their drills and they look very complicated.
And they look so good when they do them.
When I think about even what we used to do in like soccer warm-ups, we do high knees, kickbacks, side steps, like all those things that you're just turning everything.
They're like dynamic kind of movement.
I love doing some dynamic kicking before stretching.
The leg swings.
It feels so good.
Feels so nice.
And then feels so nice when you start your first rep when you've done all these things.
That
they feel like effort, but they actually make the session so much easier. And there's a lot of evidence to say how good they are for injury prevention. Like, to do a proper warm-up before you start pushing yourself. Also with cool downs, I remember I used to have really bad ITB issues, and I remember being told it can happen from lack of cooling down. If you if you go from a hard session and you stop straight away and you just stop, then that can cause ITB issues.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah, I don't know why. But
interesting.
That's what I was told. So do your warm-ups, kids.
Listen to Auntie Phoebe. Okay, so last question. Iona has asked, what are both of your next running goals?
Yeah, actually a few people wanted to know, what are we training for at the moment?
What the bloody hell are you doing?
What the heck are we doing? So it probably is a good thing to like touch base again. I know I already alluded to this last week, which is that I wanted to do the Gold Coast Half Marathon. I now have a ticket to that, which is very exciting. So thank you so much to everyone who reached out offering to get rid of their tickets. I hope you're all okay.
Sorry, that's not actually funny.
No,
I hope you're okay.
It's very generous.
Best wishes.
We've done a transfer. I've also secured tickets for other people messaging in being like, well, I'd like to do it if there's any extras. So I'm going to do a 5K next weekend, actually.
Oh, which one?
There's this 5K series in Melbourne. It's actually really cool. Basically once a month for the next 6 months. And they're run on a Saturday morning, same time as parkrun. And it's just instead of doing parkrun around a park, you just do it around the track.
Oh, that's so cool. What's the series called? Just so people can join in.
That's a really good question. Okay. They're called Love the Run. Yeah. There's 5 rounds. Basically, they start in April, so the first one's already happened, and they go all the way through to August. And they're from 8:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m., and they just have a series of races, the fastest at the start all the way through. You self-select which one you want to do. It's only $15. Yeah. It looks so good. Awesome. And I'm like, this is perfect. It's a Saturday morning. So I am definitely far from PB form, but I thought that'd be really fun. Just do it, have a hit out, see where I'm at, and then hopefully do a few more 5Ks. But then so Gold Coast Half Marathon, I think I really tossed and ummed and ahed about whether I wanted to do it because I haven't been training for half marathons. I don't feel like it's easy to think that I shouldn't race if I'm not in PB form, which I know I'm not. But then I'm also like, okay, well, I can just do it and try my best, and that's fine too.
Yeah.
And at least like
You're definitely not going to get a PB if you don't do it.
Yeah, that's true. And it's just not all about PB. And I thought, we wanted to go up anyway to get around it and be involved. So I'm going to do that. And I'll do kind of like a mini block for it. I'll do like a 4 or 5 week block where I do some slightly longer sessions on a Friday. That's the only difference. Yeah. I won't change up too much, but yeah.
Nice.
What about you?
My running goals aren't necessarily performance-based for health reasons. I'm not really, I think I've sort of spoken about before, I'm not really allowed to do, or I'm not allowed to run the way that I would like to. I shouldn't say not allowed. I've been advised not to. No one's actually holding me in the door.
Yeah. Dave.
So yeah, my goals aren't performance-based. I'm more just trying to enjoy each run and be very grateful for each run I get to do. And I mean, it's kind of been, I've found it, I mean, I won't lie, I found it a really hard shift, but I think it's good in a sense, good character building. We do like some character building, and it's also nice to remember, I guess it just goes back to basics as to why you run. And for me, it's so many reasons, and I love focusing on races or just training hard and everything, but at the end of the day, it is more so about that social connection and also moving your body and doing yourself a service to your old mental health. So yeah, I haven't really set a goal, have I?
Well, enjoy it. Have fun.
Yeah, enjoy it. Have fun.
You're going to come to the Gold Coast?
I'm going to come to the Gold Coast, and I have a 10-kilometre entry. Yeah. So if anyone is jogging along the 10 kilometres, I will see you there.
That'll be so fun.
It will be fun.
It'll be nice.
Yeah. I will have no FOMO.
No, you won't be.
I say twitching. All right. I think that is it for today's episode.
I think it is.
Thank you so much for listening. Yeah, we'll do a little poll, but we would love to hear your thoughts about the TransCon, which is the run that William Goodge is doing from Perth to Sydney. It took me an embarrassing amount of time to realise that means across the continent.
Transcontinental.
I kept saying TransCon. Yeah. And I was like, what is this?
Are they talking about? Yes, let us know what you think. And thanks. We actually had so many people write in off the back of last episode about Runner, saying how much they love app and they
which is so good.
Which is awesome.
So kudos to you, kudos to Runner, and we can't wait to be in your ears next Monday.
Yay.
Bye.
Bye. So I did think it was time to give another chin up update. Yeah. I know everyone's very invested in this journey of mine. And
sorry.